This meeting is being recorded.
Man, she's so loud. Yeah. All right. Good afternoon to our participants. We've got a few people loaded in so far. Good to see some familiar names. Beverly, glad to see you in there. Maybe we'll get you on another one of these soon. If y'all missed Beverly Wade at our 7th annual symposium last fall, you missed a good talk on excessive collecting, if I remember the title of her presentation correctly. We're excited to have the wonderful panelists that we have today. Y'all may see that my name's popping up as Cathy McCabe. I am not, in fact, Cathy McCabe. I'm Ross Hill, Executive Director of Mental Health America Spartanburg, and Cathy has been kind enough to share a computer with me. So we'll transition over to her in a second. Got a few people still trickling in, but in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today at this discussion panel for mental health and leadership. I want to hit a couple housekeeping items for MHA before we get started. We have our next ed series, or next event in our education series, March 9th, and the topic for it is eating disorders. It's going to be our first event back in person since COVID happened. It will also be available on Zoom. You can look at our profile on Eventbrite or on the website for more details. The in-person portion of the event will be held at Emerge Family Therapy in Spartanburg, and you're welcome to attend either way. We hope to see some of you guys in person for the first time since almost 3 years ago now, when COVID hit and we all had to adapt. We'll also want to shout out March 6th, Converse University is having a hashtag stigma-free music concert that is celebrating composers and musicians who struggle with mental health. And there will also be a panel discussion in the middle of it about local resources. That will be at 7 p.m. March 6th at Converse University in the Petrie School of Music. Also coming up, April 29th, we have our 2nd annual Be Kind to Your Mind event at the Northside Harvest Park. That will be in the evening, and more information for that is also available on our website. We hope to have a good turnout from the community and get together and talk about mental health and decrease some of the stigma associated with it. For today's talk, we are going to have a panel facilitated by our wonderful board chair, Susan Lea. Susan is a licensed marriage and family therapist and an LMFT supervisor. She works at Regenesis Healthcare and also has a private practice. And at Regenesis, she is Director of Behavioral Health Services. Going through her accolades would take more time than we have set aside for today. But she has been a force and a passionate advocate for mental health in our community for a number of years, and we are happy to have her today. Did I miss anything important, Susan? I don't want to slight you.
No, I don't think so.
To our attendees, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat and we'll circle back to any questions that you guys have at the end. I'm gonna hand it off to Susan and Cathy.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Our topic today is being in the limelight, leadership in mental health, and we have an amazing panel of leaders. Spartanburg is a close-knit community, and each of these have contributed greatly during their time. So I'll introduce them one at a time. Mary Thomas has over 25 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. She currently serves in a dual capacity as the Chief Operating Officer of the Spartanburg County Foundation, where she's responsible for the day-to-day operations of the organization. And she leads its mission, vision, and strategies while translating the foundation's goals into the overall program of work. She is also the executive director of the Robert Chapman III Center for Philanthropy, the first of its kind in the state of South Carolina. In this role, Mary leads the community leadership and strategic programming of the foundation. Mary has extensive leadership in the community, including the Bethlehem Center, where she was the executive director. She is a graduate of Winthrop University. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in French and Communications, and she's been very active in other roles in the community, including serving as the first African-American female chairman of the board for Appiah Health, a division of Spartanburg Regional Health System. She has served on the Council of Foundations National Policy and Advocacy Committee, the Southeastern Network of African Americans and Black Philanthropy, the South Carolina Association for Community Economic Development, Converse College Board of Visitors, Vice Chairman for the Northside Development Group Board of Directors, and the BMW Community Advisory Panel. And that's just the tip of the Mary Thomas iceberg. Mary, thank you so much for joining us. At this time, is there anything else you want to add to your bio? Is there anything I've omitted? Okay. Our next panelist is Marjorie Boafo Appiah. And Marjorie, did I say your name right? Okay. Marjorie is a visionary management consultant, author, and speaker. She is the founder of Innovation Abound, a company that gives creative ideas the opportunity and resources to flourish. As a community leader, Marjorie has served as chairman of the Hub City Writers Project Board of Directors, secretary to the Charles Lee Center Foundation Board of Trustees, and as the chair of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Spartanburg Day School. She has also served with the American Red Cross, Women Giving for Spartanburg, and the National Kidney Foundation to promote the organization's core values. She is the 2022 chair of the Spartanburg Regional Foundation Grants Committee. She is also the author of The Shimmigrant, Same Elegance, and the Young Shimmigrant series. And she has a new book coming out. Marjorie, can you remind me the name of your newest book?
Conversations About Race.
Yes, thank you. Anything else you would like to add to your bio?
Thank you. It's humbling to hear you read this bio.
You're welcome. I recognize that that again, this is just the tip of your experience, just like Mary's. And if we read the full breadth of each one of these, there would be our whole hour. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our third panelist, Cathy McCabe. Cathy is currently on the Board of Trustees for the Spartanburg County Foundation. She brings extensive knowledge, leadership experience, and legal expertise to the board. In addition to her legal experience as the city attorney, where she worked from 2007 on as deputy city attorney, she was a partner at the Ward Law Firm and Leatherwood, Walker, Todd, and Mann. Prior to that, she was an educator for 12 years, teaching at Whitlock Junior High School and St. Paul the Apostle. She is a member of the American Bar Association, the South Carolina Bar Association, the Spartanburg County Bar Association, Supreme Court Lawyers Disciplinary Council, and a founding member of the South Carolina Women Lawyers Association. Cathy, is there anything else you would like to add to your bio? Anything I've omitted?
No, thank you.
Well, thank you all for the gift of your time and your willingness to talk about what it's like to be in the limelight. If we could take just a moment, and I would like to ask, Mary, how did your education prepare you or not prepare you for your current role?
That's a great question. And thank you, Susan and Mental Health America of Spartanburg, for having me today, along with my colleagues, Cathy and Margie. You know, there's a formal education, and there's the education that I got down there in Union County on my family farm. And a combination of my formal education there in Union County. And then, of course, going on to Winthrop College at the time, but now Winthrop University, prepared me, because I grew up in rural Packlet, South Carolina. I always had a vision of something greater than Packlet. Not that Packlet, anything's wrong with the small town, but I didn't see myself being a small town girl all of my life. And my parents were traveling ministers, so I was able to see the world outside of my small community. And so I chose the path of languages, foreign languages. French was my major because I saw that as a way for me to expand my perspective of the world. And education for me at Winthrop was pretty incredible, because there I had an opportunity to be an exchange student in France. And it exposed me to the beauty of languages, the beauty of people, culture, opportunity to travel, and balance my perspective in my own hometown with what I had been afforded in my travel as a young student. So my education in French and in communications, I was a double major. Communications prepared me for public speaking. That's the formal education. My dad, being a pastor, prepared us because we had to speak in church whether we wanted to or not, with the Easter speeches and all of that kind of, all that stuff, if you will. But education was very important in our home, and certainly prepared me for what I'm doing today. Not that I was preparing to work in philanthropy. That just kind of happened. And so all of those assets came along with me.
Okay, thank you. Marjorie, what job did you dream of when you first joined the working world?
I have dreamed of so many jobs. Thank you for having me here. Welcome to all our listeners. I hope you're able to glean some information from this panel. Growing up, I dreamed of so many jobs. I especially wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be JAG because I had seen that in the movies. And I also wanted to have a top level job, probably in a bank. And that was what I was working towards when I actually enrolled in an MBA program, because I wanted to work on the top floor of some fancy building downtown in a big city.
Mm, yes, that's right. You have the MBA from Duke, right?
No, my MBA is actually from University of Baltimore. I did project management at Duke.
Okay. Now, Cathy, if you don't mind, did you foresee the position that the work that you went through? Like when you were in college, did you foresee you were gonna go into law school? Did you foresee your entry into politics?
Absolutely not. When I was at Columbia College, I actually majored in history and Spanish in secondary education, and like Mary, I felt like having a foreign language and learning the culture was just awesome. But I was always in love with history, because I just feel like it's important. If we don't know the history, then we're going to repeat it, and that the problems we've had in history, we could cure them. Now, at Columbia College, though, the one thing that I did gain is that it was kind of beat into our heads that it was important for us to give back to our community. And so my involvement, I started my first real involvement. These questions made me start thinking about it, and I'm sure it did with the rest of these wonderful panelists. But my first real involvement was running for 7th grade representative for my homeroom class, and I remember that so distinctly. And my parents being so proud when I won, and it started there. But Columbia College did put that in my heart. So when I ended up teaching, I really was teaching social studies and government, and I was doing a law-related education class with my 9th graders, and I would have local lawyers here in Spartanburg come in and teach. And there were some controversial issues they discussed that I was interested in, but I thought, I could do that. And so I didn't go to law school till I was 37 years old with 2 small children, and went to Columbia full-time to go to law school. So I always, I knew I was going to be a servant in some way, and I continue my community service, but being a lawyer and having a legal background has certainly helped me, I think, be better at some of that. So I really, at Columbia College, did it prepare me? I say no, but in my law school class, there were 5 Columbia College women, all different age groups, from just right out of undergrad to somebody that was 64 years old that was in my law school class. So there's something about that servanthood that kind of put, those women had done many, many things, but we ended up in law school together.
And it seems like that's a theme among our panelists today, is that servanthood, as well as that giving back to the community in addition to your careers. So the question is, some people say we should be authentic no matter what. How does this statement apply or not apply to you in your current position? And if we could start with Marjorie this time.
Yes, thank you. Authenticity is my mantra, but I'm afraid that there are times that I feel like I have to conform depending on the situation. I'm a bubbly person. I like to dance. I like to share jokes and laugh a lot. But sometimes, depending on the circumstances, you might not be taken too seriously. So you need to adjust your hat a little bit. If I walk into a boardroom, or depending on the clients that I'm talking to, I may have to sound serious. I tend to say that I have 2 personalities. I have my Margie Marge, which is my author persona, personality, and I have my Marjorie personality. So it's like, who do you want to meet? Do you want to meet Marjorie, or do you want to meet Margie? Margie is all fun and Marjorie is serious. But I still consider both personalities as being authentic, because based on the environment that you're in, you have to work to be effective.
So if I understand you correctly, they're both different aspects of your whole self. Is that right?
Yes, it is. I love the Margie part of me so much because it brings me joy, but I realize that the Marjorie part of me is also important to help me move forward.
Okay. Cathy, what are your thoughts on being authentic, quote, no matter what?
I think authenticity is hugely important no matter what. Except for for me, I'm Gemini, so I already am 2 people. And becoming a lawyer, a defense attorney that was a trial lawyer, I always had to wear black. I always had to wear navy blue. I mean, I couldn't, when I tried a case, I wouldn't wear red fingernail polish. And any of you that know me knows that I love color. I love to I threw those suits when I retired. All those suits have gone to upstate to help in career services, because it just wasn't me. But my personality was always authentic. My dress, I had to be somebody else because I had a client that I was representing. And my authenticity, I can't, that personality and what I bring to the table, I have to be authentic to develop trust with a client, whether my client was the city of Spartanburg and the council members and or the team that I worked with. And I think that authenticity is so important for people to build a trust factor and to have faith that you can do the job and that they can come to you when they need to come to you. So I never veered from who I was. I veered in my clothing.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Mary? What's your thoughts on authenticity?
Well, I am one who definitely believes in what I call being real, authenticity. But what I have learned over time is that I have learned to be wise in all of my dealings and understanding the rooms that I'm in. Have had to learn culture and language and people. And what I've also learned, I've learned that some people can't handle your authenticity. And so what I've had to do is adapt. And that adaptation doesn't compromise who I am, but it helps me to be successful with where I am so that I can accomplish what I've been called on this earth to do. And it may cause me to have to pivot. It may cause me, listen, I don't know if you said it, I think you did in the interview, in the introduction. I started out teaching French in District 7, and then I ran the Bethlehem Center in the neighborhood for 11 years. And now here I am over at Spartanburg County Foundation. When I go into Highland, I don't go to Highland the way I come to the foundation, but I'm not changing who I am. I'm being humble enough to say, I need to be my authentic self, but in a different delivery, you know.
Yes.
When I'm real authentic is when I'm home with my family and we can just let it go. You know, we can be who we are without any kind of restrictions. But I think authenticity is not, you know, necessarily you having to compromise who you are, but for me, it's being wise. It's using wisdom and discernment, especially in a professional capacity, is that we have to, and I'm gonna speak for myself, I've had to learn how to honor the seat that I have been privileged to sit in when I'm in these rooms, whether it's at the hospital, whether it's in our boardroom, whether it's at the Bethlehem Center around a table, but to have a respect for where I am and to be humble enough to be able to pull something out of the toolkit to engage and to be relevant.
You brought up a lot of great points, and I appreciate that statement. Some people can't handle your authenticity and talking about learning to read the room. So it strikes me that one thing that's really, really important for being able to be authentic to yourself and to be in these different rooms where sometimes you may be the first fill in the blank, first female, first Black African American, Black female, being able to be adaptable to those situations and to draw on that wise mind is so important. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So how have your views of yourself changed through your experiences over the years? Cathy, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, as city attorney, my views of myself changed in that I never thought that I could really give, first of all, I didn't think of the position as like a high profile position. I thought of it as a position of honor, that I was you know, hired to be this first full-time city attorney and first female city attorney. I knew that I could do the job because I'd been deputy city attorney for some time, but I didn't know what it would be like to sit at that podium in the council chambers 260 plus times and have to maintain civility among council members at times or between residents. And the newest thing going from private practice to doing that full time was having to make snap decisions, both legally and parliamentary wise. And those things I wasn't sure that I would do. I knew that it was going to be some of the most difficult part of the job for me. Even though I'm an outgoing personality, it's different when you're making decisions that may change a vote or change the path of the future of the city. So I learned that I could do those things. I prepared well before a council meeting to try to troubleshoot before I would go into a meeting, to understand personalities that might be in the audience. And I think that my fondest moment was when I had to deal with a crowd at the Bethlehem, at the church, Bethel Methodist, when we were closing the swim center. And all the council members were sitting in front of the room. And we had a packed house of people that didn't want the center closed. We had swim teams who had brought their little children in their bathing suits that were sitting in front of council members with signs, "Don't close the swim center." We had all of District 7 people there because they own the swim center. And I had to run that meeting as smoothly as possible. And at that time, I let myself be myself. And I said to the whole crowd, I understand you all are passionate about this and you all want to talk and we all want to hear you, but you're only going to have 3 minutes. And so when you come up here and when you see me start walking towards you, you know what that means. You're going to have to be quiet. Well, I don't know if my panelist friends were there or not, but it was one of the most nicely held meetings. The civility, they'd see me come walking and they'd say, okay, Cathy, I'm going. I'm going. Thank you, counsel. You know, but it was something that after that, I realized that I can do this in large groups and I can bring the temperature down and we can bring civility and we can do things together in very controversial situations. And so I learned that I had something that to me warmed my heart forever. And then when we had to change the animal ordinance, oh my gosh, there are people that love animals more than people. I use that same method to the point that when a woman got up there and said to counsel, I've asked for this to be changed. And she looked over at me sitting there and she said, please explain to me why she can't change it, but I still would want it in there. But I understand why y'all, that just warms my heart because that means that we stay a community in spite of our differences. And so I learned that I can do that. And I didn't know that I could.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That sounds like a challenging situation, that particular meeting about the swim center. Mary, how would you describe how your views of yourself have changed through your experiences?
Oh, that question I have reflected on a bit. I am more resilient than I ever imagined I would have to be in all of the different roles that I play in the community. And resilience in the sense of being able to bounce back from challenges. A lot of times people see, as I was saying to someone recently, they see the facade, they see the accolades, but they don't see the scars. They don't see the journey. They don't see the days when you were the only person who looked like you in the room and what you had to do to prepare to be in the room. They don't see how you were measured by every word that came out of your mouth. They don't see how you had to stand up for yourself and for people who look like you because you were being mischaracterized or stereotyped. So, I've had a lot of challenges and a lot of experiences that have shaped my, again, worldview, whether it's local, regional, or national. And I think resiliency is probably the greatest thing that I have learned about myself. And listen, that's not just Mary saying, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to bounce back. No, my resiliency is grounded in my faith. I was coming to work this morning and I start out with either my podcast by Dr. Joseph Walker. It's called Next Level Leaders. And I got in this morning, I had my Bluetooth was already on. I normally listen to satellite radio, but my praise and worship was on. And Margie and Cathy, I'm coming down West Main and I'm doing this. I'm a hot mess, just weeping. Just when I say and it wasn't a sad weeping. I was weeping for gratitude and the fact that I've been gifted another day. And that when I step into this organization or wherever I step, I'm not by myself. I'm a person of faith. I don't apologize for it. That's the big guy upstairs is the one who carries me. So every day is a day for learning and reflection and growing and evolving. And I'm pumped up now just even talking about it. So yes, I've learned how to be resilient, and that just shows me who's in control, and it helps me to live for another day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And you do touch on a couple different things that that stand out. One is that resilience and how to build it. And then the other one is the role of your faith. And it sounds like your faith is first of all, a crucial, integral part of your authenticity and who you are, and also something that is the foundation for your resilience. Wonderful. Marjorie, how would you talk about your views of yourself and how that's changed over the years?
Well, first of all, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Cathy. I am learning from you all. And Mary, keep pushing, keep praising, get your praise on. It does give me a lot of joy when I'm pumping and I'm listening to Kirk Franklin and, listening to all those podcasts. So thank you for sharing. My word for the year, Susan, is tenacity. And like Mary, I see myself as being resilient and persevering. You asked how my view has changed over the years. Yes. Well, all the dreams that I had did not come true. As I said earlier, I wanted to be in the C-suite. I went ahead and got an MBA because of that. I was in banking, I was thriving, but then I had to relocate. And so I had to give up on that dream that I had because of the stage that I was in my life. I wanted to be Jag. I wanted to be this lawyer who was saving the world. That did not come to pass, but I still viewed myself as a helper. Now, I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa, and my last name, Boafo, means helper. So ever since I was a little girl, I see myself as a little helper. And I was determined that whatever curveballs was thrown my way, I was going to help someone. I was going to help someone move forward. I was going to help someone achieve their dreams, even if it was the dream that I had that I could not achieve. And through it all, I learned from leaders. I learned from mentors. I learned that I could keep perfecting myself. I could make myself better. And through my journey, through my failures, I was able to share stories. I was able to learn along the way. I became a storyteller. Through my experiences, the different institutions that I attended, the roommates that I had, I was able to have a worldview. And so I consider myself as a global citizen, from somebody who grew up with all Black people around me, moving to America, to the diversity that I'm experiencing right now, to sometimes being the lonely voice in the room. My view of myself remains the fact that I will be a helper to someone, because I know that life is not easy.
Yeah, so first of all, tenacity is not the word that immediately comes to me for you, because I'm not looking on the inside. Whenever I think of you, I think of that joy and energy. I think of the videos of you dancing with your son. Those are some of my favorites. And even when you talk about dreams, I mean, you've got your book about Sasha right there, right? And that's the theme of that book. But you also talk about dreams that didn't come true. And you used the word failures. We started out reading bios of each of you, and maybe if we wanted to, and I'm not saying we would, but we could go through and we could make a list of, dreams that didn't come true. Who didn't you marry? What degree didn't you get, etc. And I think it's important to remember that even in failure, there is a learning opportunity, and that it can lead to a different dream. And that sounds like what you experienced. Is that right?
Yes, I learned through my experience. I see the times that I failed as times that was preparing me for the opportunity that lay ahead. So if you're going through something and you think that you're stuck, don't give up. When that door closes, another door is going to open. If plan A fails, there is B. And guess what? There are many more letters in that alphabet. So you keep going and making the best out of every opportunity. I think God has a plan for all of us. And sometimes what we think our plan is supposed to be is not what the plan is. And so we have to persevere. We have to have that tenacity and keep going. And that's how we should view ourselves.
Yes, yes. As Mary says, missing the mark is not failure, it's human. Absolutely. So, gosh, let's see, where are we? I think we're starting with Mary this go round. I'm trying to go through and take turns just to maximize the opportunity for our audience to learn from each of these amazing people. What strategies do you use to maintain your personal relationships and obligations? And how do the people in your life reinforce or challenge these strategies?
It sounds so formal. What strategies? Well, wow. I guess the strategy for me is making it a priority to value the relationships that I have in my life. And a priority for me, well, in those relationships, let me just say it first, my family, my inner circle, the 3 or 4 folks that I can call up any minute of the day, and I don't have to spend a lot of time telling them what's going on, and they can speak truth, and they can help me, they can pull me out of the ditch and get me back to where I need to be. I have about 4 of those individuals. We're on speed dial, and it's a reciprocity type situation there. And my family, my family keeps me grounded. So that those relationships with your, and then of course your friends. I mean, there's Margie there. I was on sabbatical last year, and it was time for me to reflect and to reset and recalibrate. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to hike, to go on a hike. I'm not a very, nature type person, but I wanted to do something I'd never done before. And the relationship that I had with Margie, we were able to go up top of a mountain. Now, we weren't supposed to do that. We took the wrong path. And we even had big signs that say, you shouldn't go beyond this point because people have died. And she convinced me to do it, and we did it. And or scaling the AC hotel to conquer a fear. But the relationships that I've been afforded have really, pushed me. It has pushed me to do some things that I probably would not have considered, because these folks they see things in Mary and remind me of things in Mary that sometimes I may ignore or don't value as much as I should. But to have a friend who will speak life, because when you're in, this session's talking about being in the limelight, or being at the center of attention, is not something that I had as a goal growing up. Just happened to be the eldest of 4 girls, and my dad put me in charge. And again, we were always performing in church and all of that, but being in the limelight is a huge responsibility, if that's what you want to call it. To whom much is given, much is expected. So there's a lot of pressure, there's stress, but there's also joy. And I think the relationships remind me of the joy that comes along with the responsibility, and the accountability that comes along with the responsibility, and the grounding and setting boundaries that comes along with responsibility.
Well, and I appreciate you talking about how those personal relationships are an important form of self-care, how they help you to be in the limelight and to do that. One of the things that, I think it's been 3 years now that you've been doing the women's leadership luncheon, where you highlight other leaders and youth. I mean, the whole program, start to finish, brings joy, builds relationship, builds community, and is always a fantastic event. So you have your inner circle that, again, that's an important form of self-care, but also you in the limelight, you bring others up.
Yes, and it's important, and I've gotten a little grief from that because it's for when we recognize women, and they're like, well, why not the men? Well, you know, I'm a woman, so I understand some of the trials we have to go through as women. So the goal is to lift up women so we can lift up others. And so thank you for that. And we will continue to do that so that we can be that sparkle city and have the energy and the fortitude to be able to continue the work.
And to be fair, the one youth who performed this year was a male. So it's not exclusive to women, right?
Well, the honorees are exclusive to women.
Yes. Cathy, what are your thoughts about maintaining relationships and obligations that are more personal? How do you do that? What helps you do that?
Well, my girlfriends have always been really important in my life. I mean, girlfriends from way back from high school all the way through, because I think women in leadership need other women to talk to give guidance to. And so that part is really important to me. And I find the time to have a lunch, to send a text, to make a phone call, to just stay grounded with them, to find out what they're doing. And, you know, at my stage in my life, some of us are experiencing health problems and our lives are changing. And you know, it's really important for me to stay grounded with them and stay in touch with them for that reason. You know, my family has always been hugely supportive of me. My grandchildren really keep me grounded because I'm nothing but mammy to them. There are 9 of them, and we're raising a grandson, and so they put me in my place. They, you know, they're the ones that can tell me, Mammy, no, you're not going to wear that, or Mammy, you really, you didn't say that. But that's an important part of my life, is to be with those kids, male and female, those kids, fishing with them, just being Mammy. And then Jim has always been so supportive of everything that I've done. He's an introvert and I'm an extrovert. He says I don't know the word no, and he doesn't know the word yes. So we do the tango pretty well together, and we do take time to be alone, to get away. We're always complaining because it's like our children will say, "Can you take the grandkids? We need a break." And the other day he said to me, "When are they going to say they need a break?"
Teen years.
Yeah, so it, you know, all that keeps me grounded, and and you know, and yet they're proud that one of my grandsons, who's 14, called me. He'd heard me an advertisement for me when I was running for mayor in Anderson. Why in Anderson? I have no idea. He was so excited. He said, I wanted to tape it to send it to my friends. So, you know, they do know that I have this other piece of me that likes to serve my community and wants to serve my community. But to Jim and everybody else, I'm just plain old Mammy and Cathy. That's all I am. And I'm the one that's going to have Christmas dinner cooked, and I'm going to have Thanksgiving dinner cooked, and I'm going to have Easter cooked, and we're going to gather.
Okay. Yeah. Mammy.
Yeah.
And those relationships are really important, those family relationships. I know for me, I realized one of my important forms of self-care was being present at my son's soccer games. That was really more important to me than many other things because it was important to him.
Well, and you know, I was thinking about that, going to law school so late in life, and at the age of 40, starting a law practice with 2 children in elementary school. I wasn't there for a lot of stuff, and you know, you talk about beating yourself up. I wasn't there for a lot of stuff. But my son has recently married. He ended up eloping, praise the Lord, and it's a long story why he eloped. But he and his wife, we took a trip together, and he wanted to play the song for me he was going to use when we you know, if we had a first dance, if they'd gotten married. Her father and her grandfather died within a month of each other, and she just didn't want to go down the aisle without him. So, and it was the Celine Dion song, Because You Love Me. And I was like, wow. So, you know, it made me realize that sometimes when we think we are not there for them and we haven't done what we needed to do, when I started crying, and we danced to it, you know, and in our positions, we just have to do the best we can and be ourselves, and the good Lord lets it pay off. I mean, in the long run.
So, you know, what you describe resonates with me, having been a single parent, having gone through, you know, my finishing my undergrad and doing my master's while I was a single parent, you know, relying on childcare, et cetera. Sometimes we look back and we see the absences, the times we weren't there. And it's very fulfilling and reassuring when the kids can communicate that they saw the love that was there. So that's kind of what I heard and what you were talking about.
It was a really emotional moment that I thought, man, I should quit beating myself up about some times that I wasn't there.
It makes an amazing difference in your mental health when you can be as kind and compassionate to yourself as you are to somebody else, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. Marjorie, what about you and the relationships that are important to you? How do you protect those and nurture those so that they can nurture you?
Well, I live my life in appreciation. To be thankful is, it does give you joy to be thankful for what others have done for you, whether it is by washing dishes or just a phone call or a visit. I don't forget where I come from. I don't forget what I've been through. I don't forget my now. And I also don't forget where I am going to. And so thinking about that whole journey, it helps me to appreciate the people who have played a role in it. So whether it was somebody who was there for me when I had nothing, or somebody who is there for me now, or someone who was there for me when I was sick or sad, I tend to appreciate them all and make sure that I am touching them in one way or the other. Now, that touch could be a phone call, an email, or it could even be making a funny video and putting on social media so that I can make somebody else smile. I love those touches, and I live my life in appreciation.
And that's really important. You know, research shows the mental health benefits of regular practices of gratitude. And it sounds like that's the lens through which you try to see everything in your life. And I remember when Humanity Chats was born, when we all went home and we're all home. And for some of us, that was a struggle, was a stressor. And for others of us, it was like, you know, less stressful, shall we say. And, but the isolation was kind of the common factor. And through that, you started doing Humanity Chats, and Humanity Chats evolved and morphed over time, but has always been uplifting and encouraging. So is it almost 3 years of Humanity Chats now?
Yes, almost 3 years, and we are in over 1,000 cities. I can't imagine how far we've gone, but you know, it is all in appreciation for the people that listen, because you know that if you're getting thousands of downloads, that's like having all those thousands of people in a room listening to you. And although I may not know some of them who may be in Nigeria, Russia, Iraq, Indonesia, wherever they are, whichever country they're in, I am appreciative. I thank them for listening. The appreciation goes to, you know, I have a friend, Cheryl Booker. She had a son going to college the same time that my son was going to college. However, she did not hesitate to share all scholarship opportunities with me, whether her son was applying for those opportunities or not. I live my life in appreciation of a person like that, who is being selfless, who just wants the best for all of us. And so we just have to remember to be thankful. Be thankful for that person who stepped aside in line, knowing that you had to check out early. The little things, they do make a difference. And all those people listening to Humanity Chats, wherever they are, if there's some on our session today, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about appreciating other people. And I think, in fact, this kind of ties to what I was talking to Cathy about a minute ago. If you can be as kind and compassionate to yourself, if you can appreciate your strengths, not just notice your failings, that definitely has mental health benefits. Now, Ross, at this time, if you want to join me for the last few minutes, just to kind of recap some of the topics that come up when we're doing mental health treatment with people. Some of the things that stand out to me are resilience, how to encourage resilience, how to nurture people, the role of faith. Another one is boundaries. I see some challenges with setting boundaries, whether those boundaries are for ourselves or for certain situations that we're in, and the role of self-care. So what are all the ways that we nurture ourselves? If I'm not mistaken, all three of you are phenomenal cooks. I know Mary makes, I've seen okra and greens that you shared about. And Cathy mentioned 3 feasts just in this talk today. But Ross, what do you see as the themes or the topics that have stood out that are relevant to maintaining positive mental health?
I think one connection that I noticed, not only in the responses, but also a common thread among the questions, that's me with my thread, sorry, looking all crazy, I have my hands up, is that one common connecting piece was that insight is required. That it's hard for us to know, do I need a check-in with someone? Do I need support? Do I need help, without knowing what I'm feeling, where I'm at? And I don't mean insight necessarily in a way of everything that I experience I'm perfectly aware of and know all of my triggers and all of my touch points, but even to be able to notice, that interaction didn't go quite the way I wanted it to, either based on what I did or because of how I felt leaving it. And those, I think that is, it's not easy, but fairly simple to think about. We have to start with recognizing what's happening before we can put things into place to change what is happening.
Mm-hmm. And then going along with this, I think anytime we can extend ourselves grace, when we can allow ourselves the opportunity to be human, and to remain connected, to be comfortable being authentic. I think that helps when you're in the limelight and you can still be true to who you are. It looks like we are almost out of time. Is there anything anybody wants to add before we have Ross give the continuing ed instructions? Well, I definitely want to say thank you so much to each of you for sharing your insights, your experiences, the things that help you continue to be the leader that you are, and to contribute to our communities. Ross, what are the CE instructions for those clinicians who need those?
The CE instructions for anyone who would like to get one today is approved through Spartanburg Regional Healthcare Services. or system, excuse me, for 1 hour of continuing education credit. If you are interested in that, you can email Nelda Hope at nhope@srhs.org. And that name and email address will also be in a follow-up email that comes to all of our attendees. I believe it'll be out tomorrow. So if you didn't catch that spelling, be on the lookout for the email tomorrow. And it has the same instructions, the same information about the fee. You email Nelda, let her know that you were here and you're interested in the CEU, and she'll take care of you from there. Susan, thank you so much for being willing to facilitate and gather this incredible group of leaders and women. It's always inspiring to hear from local people. It stood out to me, Mary, I think, Mary, you were the one who mentioned the stuff you learn from Union. And I love hearing local folks and knowing like, yeah, I got an idea of what Mary probably learned in Union. I get that. If anyone is interested in attending our future events, like I mentioned before, we'd love to have you. To tie in with what Susan said, it's an excellent opportunity to learn more about yourself and learn about different aspects of mental health that may apply to you, may not, but certainly impact the people that you love in your community. As a reminder, our next event is going to be March 9th on eating disorders. It will be a hybrid event available through Zoom, or you can attend in person at Emerge Family Therapy. And I also want to make a note that we will be giving away an award for the second time at our Be Kind to Your Mind event in April. So if you have anyone, or if any of our attendees or panelists would like to nominate someone to receive the Bailey Award for the impact that they have made on our community in being willing to help decrease stigma and mental health through discussing their own journey, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to get you a nomination form. Again, look for information in the email tomorrow about the CEU. Information about us and our events are available on our website, our Facebook, and Eventbrite. Susan, did I miss anything that I need to hit before we wrap up?
I don't think so, other than definitely, again, thanking Cathy and Mary and Marjorie, not just for the service they do all the time, but for taking an hour of their time to share. And then a reminder that this session is being recorded. It will be available for viewing at a later date through the MHA Spartanburg website.
I'll leave you with this to tie in with what we're discussing about authenticity and trying to weigh out feedback. 2 good rules of thumb are, if you notice yourself pushing back against positive feedback, why am I so quick to embrace a criticism, but I'll fight a compliment to the death? And why am I taking feedback from someone I wouldn't go to for advice? If it's not a source you trust for recommendation, it's probably not a source you should trust for criticism. And we hope to see everyone soon. Thank you again to our panelists and our facilitator. We'll see everyone in 2 months.
Bye.